All right, I'm coming. Quit drooling over my toys now. Damn it, they rust. Don't you know that? Jesus. Mm. You know what this is? Some of you are going to say that's a cup of coffee, and you're partially right. But for me, what it more is a creamer delivery device. That's what coffee's good for. Speaking of that, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate you allowing me to drink coffee and speak my mind with you guys. Uh, Today, first I want to start by saying that I caught John's video this morning at the Prepper Nation. Awesome channel, awesome people, as well as the others out there. But his video this morning was my style. I loved it. I sat down, turned that on, thought to myself, woo, I am going to see my favorite episode of Wheel of Fortune Holiday Edition. I was warming up. I had my notepad. I was going to win. And it was John. But it was a great video nonetheless because that sweater was a winner. Let me tell you what. Speaking of that, don't you all think that we should be doing a competition for Christmas? Yeah, you know the one I'm thinking of. I can see it. I can hear the gears grinding. Yep. It will be the ugliest sweater competition, the ugliest Christmas sweater competition. You know the one we all hate, but we've all played. I think we need to do it. What creator can get the ugliest sweater? Put down your feelings on that in the comment section and spread it over to the other creators and say, hey, let's do that. I think you're uglier than Rip Curl. I mean, Rip Curl's uglier than you. Right. So, now, fun out of the way. John brought up some great points this morning. One, of course, being that it's the holidays and we all need to love each other, and in the spirit of togetherness, I kind of want to put down my right life paradigm. Hopefully I'll find it and pick it back up, put it in my pocket. But that being said, I want to put that aside and have this video hopefully educate both sides, all sides, everyone. Because there are some that don't have a side. I don't know if you guys were paying attention, and Quifa and their brother and sister, the LMs, well, they had a sign after our president-elect, Sleepy Joe, got the thumbs up at the very beginning after, of course we all know how that is. Yep, that battle's still going. I get it. Battle's still going on. You're right. We still got a fight coming. But that being said, he did, of course, say that he was for common sense gun control or common sense gun legislation, whatever fluff you want to call it. But I think the key that we need to really key in on there is common sense. I think common sense is something that not enough of us use today, and that's on both sides. And I hope that this will make it cut and dry, because common sense is cut and dry. It's common and it makes sense. So if it's something that can commonly be seen, and that's why I'm going to show you visually, hence the toys. We like usually putting those in a video because you know what they do, but you know what? The truth's more important. So for you, I'm going to do it. And well, that was the common sense. Yeah, I had a brain fart there. Oh, God, that hurt. I hope you don't smell it. But, common sense legislation. So if it's common and you can see it and it makes sense, then you should be able to get with it. So I want to kind of dispel some of these myths out there. First, what are they planning on doing? Well, from what I see, they have 3 different versions. The first one is an outright ban of, well, we'll call them sporting rifles, but basically anything that has, this doodad pistol grip, and you have the flamethrower at the end, and you've got your ninja sword that can mount on it, that little mounting piece there, and the fact that it can load itself, and it's black. Of course, black is bad, right? No, black is good. Black rifles matter. Okay, so those are the kind of things that they'll have taking the fun out. If it can take more than 10 rounds and has a detachable box magazine, count on it. If you can cram more than 10 round magazine into it, count on it. If it's semi-auto, I'd almost guess and want to say that you can count on it, but let's not go quite that far yet. We'll see their list. And when we do, what they're going to say is that's an outright ban on all of those kind of items, including the high capacity magazines, or what we like to refer to as normal capacity. And since this is a video for both sides, I'm going to say the reason we call it normal capacity is because that's what comes with it. It doesn't come with a 10 round magazine until we were made to. Okay? And as soon as you get it, everybody just takes those and sticks them away. You know, well, unless you're in California, and then, well, you should move. But I love you anyway. And I'd love to have you here in Oregon. I know I'm going to get it from the Oregonians for saying that. But you know what? If you don't bring your views that made where you're trying to get away from come here, then I welcome you. Big old hug. In fact, in Medford, we say hug a visitor. That's right. We hug them. I think we tickle them too. Maybe give them a little pinch. But hug for sure. So that being said, those kind of magazines, those kind of firearms will, of course, be just outright banned. And then they said, well, what about grandfathering? Well, their first version's not going to have that. But what they will do is they'll be kind enough to pay you $500 for your $3,000 AR-15 SCAR, Tavor, AUG, whatever you got. They're not going to give you enough for it, but they'll buy it back from you. It makes no sense. See, now if we're talking common sense, that doesn't make any sense because to start with, they didn't buy it in the first place. So how can they buy it back? I know you guys have all heard that, but the reality is they want to give you far too little for something that costs far too much that they have no right to try and buy back from you. So that being said, I think Johnny says it best, my cold dead hands. That should be really paid attention to. Not encouraging that by any means, but that's how serious and dedicated and devoted these people are to keeping their freedoms. So I hope those of you who are watching this on the left are really listening to that, because I know you're just as dedicated to your causes, but the common sense part's coming. So that's what they want to do with that. Of course, nobody's going to go for that, so now they have their fluffier version. Because we know you're going to go for that one, right? That one would be an outright ban of current production of those kind of items, being the fun sticks and pistolas, and you got your high capacity magazines or normal capacity magazines, whichever you'd like to call them. That's what they're going to do future production of being banned. And you ask, well, what are they going to do with everything that's out there? The 500 million of whatever and 2 trillion magazines. I mean, of course, I'm blowing that a little bit out, but it's high, okay? We're talking more than there are people by far. They're going to let you keep those. Yep, you guys are all, woo, grandfather clause, we got ours, you don't got yours, kiss off. That's not fair and that's not right. We're here to stand up for everybody. So, that being said, what they are going to do is let you keep them, but you have to, of course, register them with the ATF. That's our friends. I don't hate them, but I don't love the decisions they're making. And I don't really think that some of them do too, because there was one guy that used to run that's now since, retired or left because he didn't agree with the fact that they were having him make rules that had the teeth of laws without any kind of approval of the people. And that's just not okay. And he saw that. He came out and told us, beware, it's coming. And this is exactly what he spoke of, is what's happening now. And I think we would have seen it if Hillary would have gotten in, because that was their plan for that. So now all it was postponed, and here it comes. That guy came out right before the elections for Hillary. So let's think about that. So what they want to do is have us register them with the ATF. Now, not just that, but pay $200 tax stamp for each one. Do you have any idea what that would cost? It cost a normal person that has one of each said item and maybe a few magazines thousands of dollars. Some people who collect these things it would cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's not right. And that's unfair taxation. And that's, of course, another breach of our rights. Now, that's what they want to do if you want to keep them. If not, you got to give them up, but they'll still pay you for them. That's the fluffy version. Fluffy, right? Okay, so their next one is, if they can't get those two, which a lot of people say, oh, they'll never get those. Well, you know what? How many times have we said they'll never whatever, and it's happened? And it currently is so right now. Think about it. Think about it. Really think about it. A lot. We need to stop saying that. We need to stop saying, oh, that'll never happen. It's silly worrying about it. I'm not saying lose sleep over it, don't go to your job, get all mad, get on the news, and end up in jail kind of worried about it. I'm talking about it should be on our radar and we should be doing something about it. So if we're going to do that, what the next one is, say we do that and we hold those two off, and our representatives, which only if we call them and get active will they speak up against it. I'm telling you. So while I do think there's a time for action, which I'm not calling for right now, but there's also a time for doing it the way we're supposed to. That being said, if we succeed in that, they still have plan number 3. Plan number 3 is a total ban of any imported fun guns or magazines from anywhere else, and a current stop of current manufacturer here in the U.S. They might get that. They might get half of that. They might just get a ban, just like they did. I mean, go try and get a Russian Sega or anything from somewhere else like that. They're only here what's here. That's why the prices are going up. We're not able to get them from over there anymore. So that being said, that will be what happens. They're just going to increase that to all those companies. So think about it. FN, Bren, CZ, any of your AR variants that are made over there. All those kind of cool, anything from Israel, so or Croatia. I mean, that gets into your U.S. manufacturers that are importing them from over there. It's all going to dry up, and they're going to have to bring it inshores to do. Now, that may be good for jobs, but it's certainly not good for our rights. So that's what they have planned so far that I know about. All of those are no good. And the reason for those is based upon what they think is true. And this is the part where both sides need to really pay attention. They think that these black guns, fun guns, sporting rifles, high-capacity magazines are the reason for some sort of massive increase in shootings or deaths or anything like that, but that's just not so. If you look into it, and I encourage you, go to the CDC and look for the current info. But I can tell you this, it is a fact that AR-15 style rifles have amounted for maybe, it was very close to just under 500 deaths in the U.S. in the year that was posted when I looked. Okay? Now let's compare that with how many people were killed by distracted driving on a cell phone. Well, that'd be 4,800 roughly. Now, it'll be plus or minus some for, absolute current numbers, because they never have the absolute current numbers up there. But if you look at the last polls they took, or the last research that they did, it's going to be somewhere in that $4,000 to $5,000 or 5,000 deaths mark. So that being said, why aren't we outlawing cell phones outright? They've killed more people than any AR-15. Hell, they've killed more people than any AR-15 added up with the knives that people were killed with, clubs that people were killed with, pistols that people were killed with. Okay? So that should tell you something. And if you go look up those numbers, you're going to see that they're somewhere, in the hundreds for those others. And I think when we get to pistols, it might be like 1,600, or that may be knives. I may have that backwards. But the fact is, go look it up, because you should look up anything you hear on the internet, of course. But you're going to find that you can add all those up, and it's less than people that were killed because of a cell phone. But you know why they don't go after cell phones? Because they don't want to get rid of cell phones. Cell phones aren't a threat to them. Cell phones are a threat to us in a way. If you think about it, they want us to have them so they can contact trace, get data that helps them figure out what everybody wants, needs, or desires, and make sure it's right there at your fingertips. But what if that desire is firearms and our right to have them? Well, they don't give a crap. And they try to have chicken shit reasons and try to spew false information. And I'm telling you, you can go look this stuff up. It is a fact. That's what they're spewing to get you to get all outraged by it. Yes, do I think one death is horrific? You bet. I hope I never have to take anyone's life. That would be the worst thing ever for me. But if I had to protect myself because the police can't get here in time, well, then I will. And it will be awful. But it is a necessary thing. And that's the reality. I mean, think about the last time you called the police. When were they here? I mean, let's talk about common sense. Do you think if somebody's beating in your door with a gun, or at your door with a gun, or in your house with a gun, or knife, or bat, or meaning to do you just not good, do you think they're going to get here in time to protect you? Heck, you may not even get to the phone. Especially if you sleep like me. That's why I got dogs and alarms and I got attack parakeets and sugar gliders that will just eat their eyes out. You've heard them in my videos. I know you have. So, next common sense issue. We got to talk about this pistol brace thing. Okay? The pistol brace thing, here's my opinion on it. They approved certain models of it at the beginning. Now, some of those manufacturers may have gone beyond that and just thought, you know what, if they approved that one, we really didn't change anything but the color, maybe the style strap, how it mounts to make it better and less bulky. But the functionality was still the same. But they're saying that wasn't okay because they didn't get each one approved. That's in some cases. Now, some they just didn't approve, but they had a general approval. When you give a letter to companies like SIG and even Q, and Honey Badger, you have given a letter of approval for that style thing. Now, here's the thing that I don't understand. If we're talking common sense, anything else that you infringe on, if you go to a restaurant and you're in a wheelchair and they don't have a wheelchair ramp for you or a big enough bathroom for you, you can guarantee that restaurant's going to get a visit, or that business, whatever it is going to get a visit from the ADA from a phone call complaint because there wasn't accessibility. Well, these braces were invented by and made for a disabled vet. And we all support our vets, and thank you very much for your service. It's because of you I can even do this video. But they're basically infringing on your rights. They're not giving you accessibility to be able to protect yourself. Because you may not have mobility of both of your hands. You may not be able to stand up to hold a rifle correctly, but that brace gave you the ability to do that. And they determined that even if that brace was used differently, it's okay because it wasn't changing the firearm or modifying it in any way. They approved it, and they approved it on the record. But because they don't have to get a vote on the rules that they make, and they have this broad paintbrush that they're able to use where they don't have to get votes on it, that they're just considered rules, but yet they have the teeth of a law. I mean, when have you ever seen a rule or an ordinance or something like that that'll make you a felon? That just doesn't happen. So that's why this is so serious, and it needs some thought. Okay? And also, the ADA needs to get on board. You handicapped people out there, you're my brothers and sisters. If you want to shoot and that helps you, by God, you better do that. And you should be able to do that. And you should call an attorney or the ADA and demand that they fight for your rights as well. That's point number one on that, because that makes sense, doesn't it? Now, point number 2 about that is that they were, kind of inconsistent about this. And not only that, they approved it. So companies like CZ, SIG, Q, there's a list as long as my arm, because my arm's longer than something else, that put out those braces. Now, we bought them in good faith, knowing that we were buying a legal firearm that was considered a pistol, that had a pistol brace on it, and so we had nothing to worry about. But now, because of this, well, quite honestly, we should encourage the manufacturers to file suit against the ATF for this rule change, and the manufacturers that have put them out, because we bought them in good faith. Now, I don't like that idea because, the part of that idea, because it means, bringing them in the spotlight, but we did buy it in good faith. You should be fighting for it. We should hear about all of you on a daily basis, almost, fighting to make this right, because there are millions of dollars of these, whether it's just the brace itself or the firearms that they came on, sold, approved by the ATF, of which we did a background check for, and were approved, again, federally approving it, to own these. And we did it knowing that we would be legal, law-abiding citizens. So that being said, you should be fighting big time for us. And our organization should be backing you up, like the GOA, the whatever the other one is, the NRA, there we go. Honestly, that's because the GOA has been doing such just a fabulous job. But now's not the time for division. Now's the time for all of us to come together. I think it all matters. We all need to come together to fight these matters. Now, they should be fighting this as well. And then we should be fighting this and talking to our representatives and stuff, telling them, no, you approved it. You can't make me a felon overnight. And I know it's still in the fighting process and all that, and everybody's saying be patient, but we need to speak up, because there again, we don't want to say, like I said in the beginning, it'll never happen, because it's about to. And it is happening. Now, some things, I want to show you the common sense part of this. Let's see what we're actually talking about, okay? So, that being said, here is a SIG that I bought with a pistol brace on it from SIG. See, look, there's the band still on it. Okay? Now, you'll ask, why is there blue tape on the end? Because I marked off where a normal A2 flash hider would be, which is what this came with, just so you can see the accurate length. This is what we're talking about. Now, they're saying that this would be an SBR if this rule gets through and all of that. Well, I'll have you know that if you take this, let's just let's look at what we're talking about. This was legal when I bought it, and still is, as far as I know. But let's just talk about they're worried about the length of this gun, how concealable it is. Well, let's just look at just what kind of difference we're talking about and whether this makes any common sense. So here is a normal AR-15, right? That is, I've got it marked for a normal A2 flash hider, because I don't keep those usually on most of my stuff, just for functionality reasons. But there's the difference we're talking about. And we're talking about right about 6 inches. That's it. This is all about making people felons over 6 inches. Now, this is an extreme view of it, because let's use some truth and some common sense. This gun is legal even when I do that and let the stock go down. Okay, so now the difference we're talking about is only about 3.5 inches. Yep. In this case, size matters. And I know you knew I was going to say that at some point in this video, but that's what we're talking about, a 3.5 inch difference. So what is the point? Why are SBRs, which are a rifle that was made specifically to be short, so this barrel, instead of being 6 inches, would be anywhere from 6 inches to 14 inches, okay? Well, just under 14 inches. But in this case, we're talking about a standard rifle, 16-inch barrel with an A2 flash hider and an adjustable stock. Are you seeing? Does this make sense? Because these are common weapons that were legal and are legal, okay? So let's look at a different. Let's compare it to something a little different. Let's go, and these weapons have all been cleared. Let's go with this. That's a 20-inch barrel. That's a special length, not normal. And we're talking about a difference of about 9 1/4 inches. That's all we're talking about. And it's just the barrel part. And if you drop that down, now we're talking about 5 3/4 inches. So what's the point of it? Why is an SBR so much more evil than a regular 16-inch rifle? Right? It isn't. So let's just take another one. Just give me 1 second here. These are some other common firearms. Here is a bullpup. Yep, I know what you're thinking. That blue line right there, where an A2 would end, which is on this to start with, this is a perfectly acceptable 16-inch barrel with an A2 flash hider to be right there. And it is actually shorter by roughly 1/4 inch than a pistol with an A2 flash hider and a pistol brace. Right? So if this is okay, why is this all of a sudden not? And they make plenty of these different kinds of firearms, all have 16-inch barrels. So if it's a size thing, in this case, size doesn't matter, in my opinion. What do you think, common sense wise? Now let's just look at another issue here. Okay? We have a rifle like this. Right? It's an AR or AK 16-inch barrel. If it had an A2 flash hider on it, that'd be about 7 inches difference. Oops, throwing stuff. All right? Now, just take a minute here. Now I've collapsed the stock on it completely. And what do I have? Well, I have a firearm that is now 1 1/4 inches shorter than this one. A legal, pistol braced, from the factory, 16-inch, .223 caliber rifle, pistol, excuse me. So you seeing what I mean? It's not making much common sense. So the last thing I'll show you is, say this actually goes through and they make them illegal. And all the fighting's done and it all washes out. They've given us a chance to do whatever we're supposed to do. Take those off, throw them away, burn them, sell them to somebody. Maybe they should buy those back. But let's say it goes through. What are we talking about? Well, this would still be legal. Right? So the difference in this, which has an A2 flash hider on it, would be 4 3/4 inches. Right? This would still be legal. See, that's a legal pistol still. Has been since they were made. Okay? So now let's just take a second. The shortest one we had, in its shortest form, look. There you go. It's only 3 1/2 inches difference. You kind of following what I'm saying here? What I'm laying down? And this one, again, absolutely acceptable. It's only 4 3/4 inches. So, to me, if we're talking about common sense gun legislation, then common sense would dictate in this case that we're quibbling and making people law-abiding, good, hardworking Americans that love their families and provide daily. They vote, they pay their taxes, they do all this good stuff. And we're going to make them felons over something that they were in good faith said was legal when they purchased it. And we're going to make them a felon over something as little as 3.5 inches in the smallest sense. To me, what the common sense gun control would be, and I hope that both sides are looking at this, because the other side needs to look at that and say, that doesn't make any sense at all, really. Are any of those any more lethal? Well, I can tell you this. I would rather take my chances against that 8-inch gun. This right here. I'd rather take my chances against this if it was 223. It's 9mm. I know that, so I know I'll see it in the comments. But if this was a 223, which it would be absolutely okay, with this 8-inch roughly barrel, I'd rather take my chances with this and with a vest on than I would that 16-inch gun, and certainly than that 20-inch gun, because the velocities are going to be so much higher coming out of that it will be far more potent. So really, a standard rifle is, well, more effective, honestly, than a short pistol version. And that's the common sense of it. To me, the common sense gun legislation or gun change is to do away with SBRs. And while we're at it, why not, like other countries, do away with suppressors, which will help people's hearing? That makes more sense to me than anything else. So lastly, I want to leave you with this. They demonize this. The last thing I want to touch on is makes me cringe hearing this. I cringe hearing about this massively high-powered, explosive 50 cal AR, which there are such a thing, but not in this case when the person was talking about it. I want to bring some reality to this. When they're telling you about this high-power round, this meant for war explosive demon that's flying through the air, well, here's the truth, and I'm saying this for both sides. You make your decision. But this is an AR-15 round. It's either 5.56 by 45 or 223, depending on your chambering. But it's essentially the same round. Used for hunting has been forever. Okay, it's very effective for small game, even some medium-sized game. Some people shoot big game with it. But you have to have shot placement. Why? Because it's a small round, doesn't have that much kinetic energy for big targets that you would need. Now, let's compare this with what I hunt with. That's what I hunt with. Now, I ask you, which one would you want to be shot with? This is a true high-velocity round. This is out of my hunting rifle, which everybody seems to think is okay, which they are. But this is my hunting rifle, made for shooting long distances, heavy bullet, so it has as much oomph at longer ranges. This is a 223 or 5.56 by 45. It's not a high velocity monster that they make it out to be. So both sides, especially the left, I want you to look at this. This is the truth. Here it is. Pictures. This is not edited. See, woo, woo. Right? That's what we're talking about. This is not a beast or a monster or anything high velocity, nothing. This is, but it's meant for a specific purpose to hunt with. So please look into these things before you start telling people, because you look foolish when you say it's a big high capacity round. Oh, right? These are the facts. These are common sense things. If you want to change people using guns for bad things, well, focus on the people who are using them for bad things, not the tool that could sit right here all day long and never harm a soul. It's not the tool. It's the user. And that's where we need to focus our energy on. How to keep them from becoming to that point, to getting to that rage that they feel that they have to do something like that, or guilt or shame or whatever feelings they're feeling. That's where the key lies. And focus on doing things like being kind, being loving. Focus on community. You know, back in the day, well, communities took care of each other and their people that were in strife and whatnot. And sure, things like this probably still happened, and they dealt with it. But they certainly didn't get rid of the tool because they knew it wasn't the tool. It was the person. And so they addressed that. And that's the truth of all this. And I think that's something that, you know, when I look at the goodness that's really out there and all the people that in the community that these rights are being taken from, I mean, think about this. These communities that own things like this, you may not like guns. You may not want to ever have them. You may not even think there's really a need for them. And that's your right to think that, but it's not your right to enact something to take them away from others or even get behind it. Because when your rights are being infringed on, you're going to want us to be there for you as well. Say your freedom of speech, right? You have every right to that as well as we do, as well as we have every right to have a firearm, right? We need to stand behind each other. And I can tell you this, what I've seen in this community of people who own things like this, or even just hunting rifles or whatever, they're amazing. You need to take time to get to know them, because if I gave it a dollar figure, well, just 3 of the communities I know of off the top of my head just donated in excess of $3,000, all for food for the people in need. It was beautiful. And one of these community members donated $13,000 over the entire year to people in need. That's what this community truly does. And you should know that. You should actually protect that. Because if you were in need, we'd be the first people to come to your aid. Take a look at some of these videos that are in my description box. These channels. Watch their videos, especially the recent ones. See what kind of kindness and support pours out. That kindness and support is for all people if they want it. But if you spit on it, they won't want to. But they're there. So just think about that. Maybe think that we might have the same goals, the same enemies, the same aspirations. In the end, I think, don't we all want a better place, a better country, a better world? Well, that's not going to happen just because you take guns away. In fact, that's going to actually guarantee that it doesn't. Because these are the same people that will stand up for your rights. Anyway, I've probably rambled long enough. I hope you guys all enjoyed that. I've got some fun videos out there too that'll make you smile and laugh. Please go and see those. Be sure to visit the channels down below and tell them that Rip sent you. And have a Merry Christmas. And I'll see you before the new year. Remember, always stay safe, secure, aware of your surroundings, and prepared for anything that may come your way. I love all you guys. Merry Christmas.